So we wanted to spend a few minutes just talking about Lozen's APIs and our strategy for enabling mainframe data access in the widest possible range of applications. We know that there are a lot of different kinds of applications out there that want to access mainframe data. Some are in the cloud, some are on-prem, some are custom built, some are vendor supplied. And a really unique feature of Lozen is that we've avoided the temptation to try and create a one-size-fits-all API that has to be everything in all of those environments. Instead, what we've done is we've created multiple APIs that pretty much all deliver the full functionality of Lozen, but do it in different ways depending on the needs of the application we're working with. So going down the current list, top to bottom, the first API that we built was something we call the native API, and basically this is a way of saying that you don't really need an API. This is operating with Lozen over nothing more than the built-in NFS client support that you find in most operating systems today. So really what this means is that Lozen makes your mainframe data look like local files in whatever file system on whatever computer you're running on. And that means instead of calling an API to read and write data, what you're doing is just opening and closing files and reading and writing records from them. What your application sees as a local file that it can do, open, close, read, write, is really maybe a VSAM file or a QSAM file residing on the mainframe. So the beauty of the native approach is that it works anywhere. You don't need any software from us for this. All you need is a platform that supports industry standard NFS protocols, and you can access mainframe data like that. This has been kind of the core part of our product since its inception. So once we did that, we started looking at other kinds of applications, and one that kind of jumped right out at us was something that we designed in conjunction with our friends at Micro Focus. Micro Focus has a very robust enterprise server family of products that allow you to take mainframe, let's say COBOL or PL1 applications, recompile them in Micro Focus, and they run unchanged on other platforms, Windows, Linux, whatever you have. The challenge with that has always been the data. You may or may not want to move the data to some other platform, and this is an important part of the Lozen story, is we let you keep the data where it is. So working with our friends at Micro Focus, we were able to develop a plugin in their environment so that if I take, let's say a COBOL program that's trying to read a VSAM keyed file, it operates completely unchanged on other platforms. And in fact, it accesses the same exact data in the same exact way it always has. So, again, if I'm doing searching for records by their keys, if I'm inserting records in the file, deleting records from the file, opening it and reading it backwards, all of the things that you can do in COBOL with VSAM files can not just be kind of recompiled and executed on Windows or Linux. That program can operate against the same data using the Micro Focus integration in Lozen. So it makes it trivially simple to move that data or move that application and continue to process the same data. So after Micro Focus, we also developed what we call the Lozen API, and really this is just a streamlined version of our native API. Someone that's developing, let's say a C or C++ application, or maybe a big Java application that wants to read and write mainframe data. They certainly could do that through the native interface I described before. They would just have to know a lot about, how do you do a keyed search? How do you do, all the different types of functions that are available there? So in the Lozen API, we simplify that. We give you a callable library of, here's how you do a keyed search, and we encapsulate all of the logic below that. It's still communicating exactly the same way that our native interface does. It's just much, much simpler to consume in custom applications. So then with the Lozen API behind us, we also started hearing from customers that many of the applications that wanted to access mainframe data were running in what I call an integration hub. You know, these are products like the Mule ESB or Boomi or Microsoft's Azure Logic Apps. I mean, there are many of these from a lot of different vendors. But the model is generally the same. They all use an approach that's basically a pipeline approach where you access data using a kind of a connector strategy. So, you know, after listening to some of the customers we were speaking to, it seemed like a great fit for Lozen. So we went and developed a Mule ESB connector. And what that means is a Mule customer can go right to Mule's development environment, their Anypoint Studio, and in a very visual, graphical way, they can just kind of grab a Lozen object from a palette of controls, drop it in their data flow, configure it to do whatever they want it to do, and now with exactly zero code, they're accessing mainframe data. So it makes it really drop dead simple for customers in the Mule environment to take advantage of Lozen this way. And it extends those environments to include things like mainframe VSAM, QSAM, PDSs, and so forth as really first-class objects in their architecture. All of that mainframe data behaves just like any other data would behave inside of Mule. So Mule gave us that environment, but you know, as I said before, there are many products that kind of follow a very similar paradigm there, and we didn't want to focus on just some of them and ignore the others. So you know, it turns out there's an important industry standard known as OpenAPI that gives us a way of defining connectors that work with many of these products, whether it's Boomi or TIBCO or IBM products or Oracle's products or Microsoft's products, and you know, 70, 80 others. So what we did was we developed an OpenAPI connector that allows you to work with really any of these integration hubs, and it operates exactly as I described for Mule. You know, within a data flow, the connector is invoked, and it has the logic for, you know, reading, writing, or you know, whatever you're trying to do with your mainframe data, and it makes your accessing your mainframe data look just like any other type of data access would inside of these products. So, you know, together this gives us a pretty broad range of applications that we can process. Everything from, you know, existing applications that really had no concept of mainframe data. I mean, they absolutely can process against mainframe data using our native interface. Custom apps, you know, whether that's Micro Focus or things that you build from scratch in C, C++, or Java. I mean, we have pretty complete solutions for those as well. And then if you've bought into a strategy like, you know, any of the integration hubs I described, we have plugins that fit in that environment as well. They all behave the same way. They all have the same set of functions exposed, you know, so they're able to do anything that Lozen can do. And, you know, as I said before, they do it in a secure way. They do it in a high performance way with data integrity, fault tolerance, and so forth. So, you know, the universe of applications that can easily access mainframe data is increasing by, you know, not just with Lozen, but with the different types of APIs we've delivered. And this definitely will be our strategy into the future. We talked about 5 APIs today, but again, we look forward to hearing from customers with more requirements. You know, we're definitely open to expanding this list, and I absolutely expect as new requirements emerge, that's exactly what we'll be doing. Our goal is to make it as simple and straightforward as possible to integrate mainframe data no matter what your application is doing. So, in a nutshell, that's our API strategy today. If any of you have any questions, always look forward to working with you in the future, and thanks for listening.